Okay, so let me start off this video by saying that I was originally planning on talking about how the episode title message in The Owl House was likely to be a witch loses a teacher. But then Monday afternoon I saw this tweet, and my initial thought was, great, we're getting an episode about Willow and Amity. And then my next thought was, wait, Understanding Willow? But that starts with a U. A U? There's no U in teacher! And then when you also account for the episode title Mini Problems that was discovered on Kinopoisk along with the title Sense and Insensitivity, which is an episode airing on July 11th, then does that mean we also have to account for an M in the message too? So rather than going over a witch loses a teacher, which kinda got thrown out the window because of Understanding Willow popping up, I thought I would take a look at the different possibilities for the message. Now, the first thing I want to bring up is the episode Mini Problems. Like I said before, this episode was originally found on the Russian TV and movie database site Kinopoisk. Along with Mini Problems, there was also the episode Sense and Insensitivity that was found. Now we know that Sense and Insensitivity is a confirmed episode, so that increases the likelihood of Mini Problems being an episode. But what I would say is that if you look at Kinopoisk, not all of the Russian episode titles translate exactly to the English titles. So it's also possible that Mini Problems is a rough translation and will be slightly different with its English title. But since Mini Problems has yet to even be announced, we won't worry about it too much at this point. But now we're gonna move on to Understanding Willow. First off, let me just say I am so hyped for this episode. Ever since Hootie's moving hassle, I've been dying to know what Willow and Amity's history is, and I'm sure both have a different perspective on what happened between the two, and I'm just so excited and I hope that these two can be friends again. But when looking at the source for Understanding Willow, we see it's listed as episode 13. However, we already know that the first day is the 13th episode and is set to air on July 25th. And what's even stranger is that the first day is not even listed, at least at the time when I checked the site and took this screen cap. So at the very least, Understanding Willow could be episode 14 with no set air date. However, it's possible that it could even air later in the season. Now, initially, I thought if Understanding Willow aired directly after the first day, which does make sense considering that Willow and Amity are likely to appear in the first day and possibly set up Understanding Willow. But my initial thought was that the message might be a witch loses a tutor, however that would be too short. So I went through some websites and tried to see if there were any 7-letter words that started with T followed by a U and contained an M, just in case Mini Problems is in fact an episode. And I don't think any of these words really work in the message that we have so far. So that leaves the question, what is the message? And until we get all the episode titles, we won't know. I'm really hoping that Disney TV Animation put out another post where they list all the episodes and air dates like they did with the first half of season 1 before it premiered, because that would make my life so much easier. But until then, if we really are getting episodes called Understanding Willow and Mini Problems, then the message may not be a witch loses a and then a word starting with T, but rather the message could be a witch loses at, followed by a 6-letter word, presumably containing the letters U and M. There is also the possibility that the message starts off a witch loses a and then T, but rather than a 7-letter word, there are 2. However, that's a bit harder to predict at the moment, so let's stick with a witch loses at for now. But this brings up the next question of who could this message be referring to? The other message in the show is where you have to decode symbols hidden in the background of each episode, and it seems to be referring to Ida and Lilith. 2 witches torn apart, now alone, 2 hearts of stone. Given the strained relationship between the two, and that both have gems over their hearts, it's the easiest conclusion to come to. But we'll have to see if that truly is the case by the end of the season, or even the series, depending on how long the message is. So if we have one message already seeming to be geared towards Ida, and even Lilith for that matter, then I don't see the episode title message referring to Ida as well. The next guess would be Luce, and this would make sense since she is the main character of the show. The thing that gives me pause is that Luce isn't really considered to be a witch. We've pretty much heard her referred to as a witch in training or a witch apprentice, but never just a witch. The other thing to look at is what could Luce lose at? We already saw her and Amity both lose in the witches' duel in Convention. We know at the very least she and King will return to the Convention Center in the future as they are seen here in the dressing room. So maybe Luce will enter another witches' duel? Or perhaps the message could be referring to something at Hexside. We know Luce is set to attend soon, and there will likely be some sort of test or trial that Luce will have to pass, so maybe she ends up failing at some point. But the other individual that I want to bring up that the message may be referring to is Amity. Like I said before, both she and Luce lost in a tie in the Witches' Duel in Convention, so maybe we'll get a rematch between the two, one in which Amity truly loses at without Lilith interfering. And similar to Luce, Amity is also attending Hexside, so it's possible she fails at a test or trial in a future episode. The interesting thing about Amity is that she is seemingly being set up for a more prominent role in the second half of Season 1. With the way Lost in Language left off, we see that she is on a path of self-improvement. And when looking at the promo that was released for the second half of Season 1, she's featured pretty heavily, which to me says that she'll be more integral to the show in the very near future. So it's not out of the question that the message could be referring to Amity. But anyways, the whole Understanding Willow thing kinda threw a wrench in the plans for what the message is, but even still, this is a win in my book because that means we'll be getting an episode about Willow and Amity's past. So I can't be disappointed knowing that this episode is coming in the near future. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time guys, take care.